What up, it's Dane, and in this video I'm going to be telling you how many calories you should be eating per day to lose fat and build muscle, right? So what you need to know first before I get into any other information or details, whatever you want to call it, in order to lose weight or lose fat, whatever you want to say, you need to be in a calorie deficit. In order to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus, right? Calorie deficit is just eating a certain amount of calories below calorie maintenance, and calorie surplus is eating a certain amount of calories over your calorie maintenance, right? So build muscle, calorie surplus; lose fat, calorie deficit. You need to know that, right? So I'll start off with losing fat, right? So how many calories a day should you be eating to lose fat? So if you get a calculator out right now, I will help you do this today, right? Today. So now that you have a calculator, I'm assuming so, by now, or you could have just paused the video and get one. 11 times your body weight in pounds, right? So 11 times 1 would be like 200. Once you have that number, that's your BMI, right? Your basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories. How can I explain this? BMI is just like, you know, how many calories and your body needs to just maintain its normal functions, right? Like movement, stuff like this, digestion. That's your basal metabolic rate, right? Now you have your BMI times that number by 1 to 1.6, right? 1 being you're very inactive. Even if you go to the gym 6 times a week, you just have an office job, you're very inactive, right? 1.6 being you're always on the move, you're active, you go to the gym a lot, stuff like that, right? So work out whether your thing is 1 to 1.6 and be real honest with yourself here. If you're not honest with yourself, your calorie maintenance is going to be way off, right? Now that we have that number, that's going to be a calorie maintenance, right? How many calories you need to eat per day just to sustain everything, right? Now, once we have that number, minus that by 500, and I'll get into, in a second, I'll get into why that number can be more as well, right? So, just as an average point, a starting point, minus that by 500, right? And this is real important to know. That's going to be a calorie deficit, that number now, the end result. But this is real important to know. This is where I'm going to apply it to like 3 different people, right? So, the first person that's very lean already, they can see the abs. They just want to get rid of a little bit more fat, right? That calorie deficit could be maybe 500, maybe less, right? 300 calories. The reason being is because they don't need to go so aggressive, right? They could just take it slow and steady and still try and enjoy the diet as much as possible just to lose that last bit of fat and try and minimize muscle loss, right? Try and minimize that shit, because that's one thing, when you cut, you don't want to lose muscle. So that's why when you're real lean, you can just take a slower approach, right? When you say 15% body fat, like in an average range, you can see your abs a little bit. Probably 500 calories is good, right? Just to get like the fat loss speed up a little bit, and then the third factor is people that are real overweight, like they can't see the abs at all. They've got a big stomach, right? They're very overweight. Those people can go in way more than 400 calorie deficit. That's a weird number. They can go way more than 500 calorie deficit, probably about 1,000 maximum though, because after a while it will become hard to sustain. So, but the reason being, here's why I recommend this, right? For example, say you say to a fat person, okay, you go on a 200 calorie deficit, right, and they lose not even 1 pound a month. They're just going to lose motivation, right? So you need to get them that fat loss speed up, so they get more motivated the more they lose. So those are the 3 factors when it comes to fat loss. Like I said, it applies to like 3 different types of people, right? So pick which one is yours. Once you had that, not the end results, but the number before that, after you multiplied it by 1 or 1.6. If you're overweight, minus that maybe about 1,000. If you're a little bit overweight, you can still see it as minus by 500. If you're really minus by like 300 or something like that. So again, personal preference, right? And what I have to recommend, when the bigger the calorie deficit you go in, the more protein you would need, right? This is real important. Even if you go on a 300 calorie deficit, as soon as you go on a calorie deficit, your body hasn't got as many nutrients, so protein is needed. Probably about minimum 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, minimum. But if you're going in like a 1,000 calorie deficit, 1.3 grams of protein is probably needed. And one thing to also mention though is the reason why protein is actually good for not only repairing tissue, muscle tissue, but also it fills you up for a lot longer, right? It digests a lot slower than simple carbs. That's why it's filling up for a lot longer. But okay, now that I got fat loss out of the way, and I don't know how long the video has been, like 4 minutes or something, I'll try and make this video as short as possible, give you some value to the point, right? So now I've got fat loss out of the way, I want to get into muscle gain, right? So how many calories a day you should eat for muscle gain? So those of you trying to pack on muscle, this is real important, so listen. Same principles apply to get your calorie maintenance, right? 11 times your body weight in pounds, and then do the multiply to 1 to 1.6, right? Now that you have that number, that's going to be your calorie maintenance. Again, same principles apply. Not exactly the same though, not exactly the same. Add 500 to that, right? Just as a baseline. And one thing I have to mention as well, this calorie maintenance number, it's not going to be exactly right for you. Probably take about 2 weeks and check it out when you track it yourself. Am I losing weight? Am I gaining weight here? Whichever is your goal, because all calorie calculators are not exact. Right? I can't tell you exactly your calorie maintenance. You need to figure it out yourself a little bit by tracking your weight and stuff like that, your measurements. And here's why. There's a thing called NEAT, right? Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and this is just basically like the I can't control, I can't tell you what happens, and just like how much you fidget, how much you move unconsciously, stuff like that, that burn extra calories, right? So that's why this number is not going to be exact. But back to building muscle, like I said, add 500 to that final number that we have, right? So it's 11 times your body weight in pounds to 1 to 1.6, that's the multiplier. Once we have that number, times that number, not times, plus that number by 500, right? So say it's 3,000, something like that. And that's called a calorie surplus now, right? That plus 500 is the surplus. You need to be in the calorie surplus to gain muscle. Simple as that, basic steps. To gain muscle in the calorie surplus, increase weight on the bar over time, so lift more weight over a period of time, and then increase the volume over a period of time. This is really, really important, right? Just to build muscle. But like I said, the same principles apply to fat loss. They don't exactly, and here's why. Here you don't have really different types of people, right? Just because someone's like real skinny, like they're like a stick, right? That doesn't mean they need to eat 1,000 calorie surplus, because what you need to understand that eating over like 500 calorie surplus, it's just gonna speed up fat gain, not muscle gain. You can only eat a certain amount of calories until muscle gain stops and fat gain increases, right? No, muscle gain doesn't stop, my bad. Fat gain will increase, so will muscle gain, but it's like an inverted U, right? So I'm sure you know what inverted U is, but it's like this, right? After a while, say this is like 500 calories, and then if you eat more, the muscle gain will still go up, but the fat gain, right? So the downward spiral is basically showing you there's no point on this, because you're gaining loads of muscle, not loads, the same amount of muscle, but a lot of fat gain. So what's the point? Basically what I'm trying to tell you is just keep a 500 calorie surplus, and that will minimize fat gain, right? So that's how many calories you need to eat per day to build muscle. I think I covered everything. So as always, stay positive, stay smiling, and I'll see you in the next one.